Hello everyone and welcome. Let me fade out the music here, but not too much, just to have a background floor to cover my ums and thinking moments. Today we'll be streaming yet again and trying to create more fun in our memory game. Try to leverage more server-side stuff. So the client, your phone or whoever else is playing the game has an easier time loading it, that sort of thing. Let me start by sharing not the agenda but the actual game. Last week we had lots of fun recreating a memory game, a memory card game. I realized that memory cards may mean different things to people from the PlayStation OG era. But for me, it means that you have a board with a few cards face down, and then your goal is to try to figure out which ones match. When they match, they stay on the board revealed, and then you can keep playing until you've revealed the whole board. And you will have to watch me haphazardly play this without paying too much attention, just to see where we got to, so you can see correctly we're identifying whether we've matched a card or not. And in the end, we do get a nice confetti animation as well. Today, I don't know if we'll be increasing the fun too much. We'll probably be introducing some stats and that sort of thing. But let's go back to the agenda. As always, especially in these moments, make yourself scared in the chat. Lots of messages already for this channel, so thank you everybody. Thank you, Ofeni. I saw you subscribed to be notified to this stream earlier and you left this message. So hello, Cookify Media, Chris Van, and Spiky 8D. Is that a D8 dice? Or is that too many dimensions that I cannot even fathom? In any case, welcome all, make yourselves heard in the chat, especially in these moments where we're just chatting around. Shoot your questions or suggest the things that we should add here. The framing for this episode is going to be expanding on the memory game and potentially doing more server-side stuff, but I'm always looking for more ideas. I love creating videos that people love to watch, so if you have curiosities about maybe front-end or full-stack in particular, Svelte, React, other things, Unreal Engine, I don't know, let me know, and if I think I know enough or I can spend enough time trying to learn a few things to explain them, I will do videos on them, so be warned. So for today, we quickly went over what this memory game is again. We started last week. I think it took us like 2 hours, 3. I did try to not do too much off stream afterwards, but I did want to deploy it and make it live for you to play. You can actually go to the techie.cat, cat for Catalonia, but also for cats, website, and click the games section and you can play this yourself. And after the stream, I will be uploading the changes, so long as we haven't broken things too much. I do try to restrain myself from working on this offline, so we can go through the struggles and the moments of revelation together. And today, we'll be doing some design tweaks. So especially, I noticed that after I deployed and started playing on my phone, it is quite annoying to have to scroll up and down. Maybe that's part of the challenge, I don't know. But we'll see if we can actually make enough cards fit, at least when you're playing on an iPhone 12 Pro, even though I'm sure that will be obsolete in like a couple of weeks when the new iPhones come out. In any case, make it more usable on this dimension, maybe do something with transitions a bit more fun. But most of all, I would like the server to be deciding on the board, so instead of doing our calculations here, so we are in SvelteKit land. SvelteKit is a framework that makes full stack development fun and easy. Relatively speaking, it's always hard to do it nowadays, but not as hard as back in my day, let me tell you. I am joking, of course. If you are familiar with SvelteKit, and if you aren't, I suppose, you have a routes directory in your project, and that specifies the URLs really that people are able to hit. And for us, we want them to go into games memory and then be faced with our memory game. So we've created a games directory, and inside it a memory directory, and then a plus page, which is the new style of doing the routing, directory-based routing. This has the UI for our page, and because it's Svelte and it's a modern front-end framework, it is rendering not just native HTML elements, it is also rendering components. So we have this page heading that we use in every page to keep things consistent. And we also have the board, which has all of our logic, really. So this is where we have a list of emojis, and then we kind of double them and start them as a hidden state. And for each one of those, we render a card, and then we tell each card they should be face down or face up, essentially. We name the states revealed, hidden, and selected. So everything is on the hidden state to start with. This is selected because you selected one. And if you manage to match two, then they will both be on the revealed state. Did we get stars? Yeah, lucked out on that one. A lot of this logic we could do on the server. I'm not running any benchmarks to tell you that, oh, now the UI will render like 300 milliseconds faster on an iPhone or something. But the general feeling with that sort of thing is that it's usually better if you do it on the server. Maybe not. The less work that the client has to do, the browser, and the user has to do, the easier, the smoother, the less JavaScript you have to ship, the less you're overheating the phone and draining their batteries. I'm making some of those things up. If you don't have benchmarks, you can't really say that, oh, if we do this on the client, things will be faster. You have to measure this. If you don't measure it, then everything you do doesn't really matter. You don't really know what happened. But we'll do it anyway, because for other problems, this will be important. At some point, for work or for whatever else, you will find that this is too laggy, this takes too long, some people can't use this. And then you will be delegating the server to do some stuff instead of the client. So you can bring it there. If you are actually clicking around this app, let me know if you have frustrations, if it's not loading for you or anything like that. Svelte, by default, is doing its best to ship as little JavaScript on the client as possible and make things smooth. So it's making it harder for us to shoot ourselves in the foot and build slow apps. But you never know. It's still some JavaScript that's going to be loaded, and that's inherently going to take some more computation power. Anyways, we're doing everything client-side. The cards are its own components, and they don't have any logic inside them, really. They just get told that this is the emoji you'll have to show. We tell you whether you're revealed or not, and we pass around the method. They expect a method to be passed around to happen when we click. We may change that in the future, I'm not really sure, but the goals for the day is have the server do more stuff. This means that we can cheaply seed randomness. JavaScript does not have seeded randomness by default. So seeded randomness would be given the same seed, like 1, 2, 3 or ABC or whatever you want the seed to be, then the result of your random number generator or whatever else will be the same. So if I give it the seed A, then my first dice roll will always be 6, no matter how many times I run it. By default, or by design, or by reality, JavaScript hasn't brought in anything that allows you to seed its math random method. So you normally don't have the ability to control that, which makes testing things harder, because for most cases you don't want random tests. You definitely don't want tests that sometimes pass and sometimes fail. You don't want flaky tests. But sometimes it is easier to say, all right, if I give it this seed, then I know that the board is going to always look like this. So I can have my playwright test runner click around a few cards and know that these were matching, so they should stay visible. These weren't, so it should revert back to not being visible. Anyway, in other languages, you do get this from the language itself, but today we'll be bringing in this library, I believe. That's my rough plan for today. For the live streams, I do have like a rough plan, pretty much the agenda that I spell out here and put in the description, but don't really know if anything is actually gonna work. And sometimes I have used the libraries that I'll try to reuse, like this one. Sometimes I haven't, and I figure stuff out live. So doing it on the server makes it easier to do the randomness thing, because this library is actually quite hefty. It's much slower as running just a math random unseeded as well. So that's something you would want to do on the server. From previous benchmarks, not from running the benchmark here, because I haven't done it yet, we will allow different card sets. So I've selected some emoji for us. Feel free to suggest your favorites, I suppose. But it would be cool to have different sets. Have like a cat set, dog set, places set, countries like flags, so different sorts of set, and then it randomly selects one of those for you, or allows you to click a button, have a drop down, and then select the one you want to play with. That may be fun as well. Then we'd want to persist the state, probably using cookies. So if you've started playing and for some reason I'm talking and not thinking, so I'll never be able to match anything. Did it. So if you're playing and for some reason this reloads, like you got a different page, you physically refresh, or you're playing on your phone, you did something else, and then the page went out of memory, or the phone decided that it should kill it. So when you hit the same page again, it just requests the same. You should still keep the revealed cards that you have. That will be more important if we do the stat tracking thing, where we calculate how many moves it took you, or how many lives, how many wrong guesses you had, because then it will be harder to cheat and just keep starting over until you make it with no losses. We will talk about persisting it in a database, which we'll probably not do. That's why I have it as a question mark. We'll see. Then the stats that I talked about, and then I'd want to think if there is room for like a hit stop or boss stop. So Sakurai started a channel about creating games, which is amazing. Have a look, short videos as well. The biggest one so far, and my favorite, has been this one about how more bring the players' attention to the fun moments, make them feel like more epic and more fun. So I'd love to take this learning and put it in a card game. I don't know when, maybe if it's your last live. If we have lives, then the whole screen shakes. When you complete the whole board, we do have the confetti, which is fun. Maybe we'll do something more there, but I don't really know. We'll see if we make it that far and inspiration strikes. And I've also mentioned picking as a feature, that maybe you get like 3 picks or 1 pick per game, and then there is some strategy involved of whether you want to use your pick early or save it for the last few sets. I don't know. We may do all of that, or we may do things that you suggest. So, good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening to everywhere you are in the world. Definitely not good night. We have a long stream ahead, so I'll start my Pomodoro style timer and strive for 25 minutes of coding. Keep letting me know stuff in the chat. I'll probably be getting things wrong as always, so steer me in the right direction as well. So first things first, we did copy paste some stuff from a code pen that was showing this card flip animation, and we did tweak it a little bit, but we can tweak it a bit more. In general, we do specify the transition here twice, which we shouldn't, but in general we are using Tailwind, which is a CSS framework, a utility first CSS framework. So I'd rather things that are already in Tailwind CSS to keep them and use and create them using Tailwind classes. So now I want to do so I haven't specified the transition, so now the card flips are instant, which is not fun, but I can specify transitions transform, so all the transforms, which is the flip is one of the transforms, and then specify a duration as well. So now we have flips with an easing function as well, so they have a bit more momentum, which I think is a bit more fun, and they are a bit faster which is probably what we want. Like 300 milliseconds is as good as number as any as far as transitions go. We used to have 500, which is 500 milliseconds, which is half a second, which I think is too slow. So we can get away with 300, I think. I think that looks a bit more fun. But also, we have an artificial timeout before reverting back to the previous one, which should probably match. So if the transition is 300, then wait 300 more and then flip back. That maybe makes sense, maybe not. Is this enough to register? Maybe it's not enough to register that you've made a mistake. And that's a moment where we may want to do the hit stop thing, even though it's unfortunate. It is a bit like taking a hit. So maybe that's a point where we want to shake the cards to specify that, oh, you did a mistake there. It wasn't correct, so we'll have to revert back. If it was a Mr. Beast video, I would have this little sound that's like, ugh, when you get hit. But it isn't. So design tweaks, right? So another annoying thing is that if you're playing on your phone, or at least if you're playing on my phone, you have to scroll up and down to find the cards. So it would be great if I can see the whole board at any one time, at least if I scroll down enough. So I guess I'd want a 4x4 grid at any time. And let's try to make it so. So 4x4 would really mean that out of the 12 columns we have, a 12 column grid we have, we always take up 3, 6, 9, 12. So that's 4 per row. But now in this size, it's a bit too big. The cards are a bit too big. So what else can we do? Maybe they are quite smaller. The thing is that they still need to be wide enough to be clicked. Nope, already had that. So let's see, a height of 24. So maybe that's good enough. I guess we also specify a gap here, and maybe on smaller screens the gap is less. And yeah, this makes it, I wonder what's this white area there. That's a design problem for another time. And is it still too big? Nope. I think this may be good enough. All we'll need to do is to make the actual emoji faces a bit smaller. But from where? I guess from here. So for the larger pages, I do like this text size, but maybe 2XL would be enough. 4XL, 6XL, 5XL. All right, so now you can presumably click around as much as you want. This SM, I guess, breakpoint may be a bit too much. So maybe the change should be to like 7XL and then to 9XL, and the same thing with the width and the height. So keep this for medium breakpoints and above, but for small, it's 40, I think. I guess so. And it's 56, I think, maybe. Just barely. Can be a bit bigger as well, the emoji, interestingly enough. So the emoji, seems we can get away with this, but we want just a bit less. It's 38 a width, definitely not. Not 36 seems to be a thing. Right, I think that's about correct in most sizes. Maybe we can do something for this to take most of the screen. So keep this big. But it's usually more fun if this flows to the center of the phone. And I guess this is not a flex container, and by this I mean this. So if I do flex here, flex column looks the same, but then if I tell the board to grow, it will actually spread over the whole of the page. Which maybe is nice, maybe is what we want. Maybe this looks a bit nicer. Maybe you want the cards to be smaller, but in that case, do we want like a container inside the container? So the board, I don't do the grow anymore, but in the page, I'm saying that put the board inside a div, and that one grows, and that one flexes, flex columns, and justifies the items in the center. Maybe that's a bit nicer. Still spread somewhere. Yeah, that's probably nicer, and we have like some room to put in stats. Thinking of this, that should probably be... No, not. I'm trying to think, where should the stats for the board be, and that sort of thing, like the move counter? But the answer is not there. They could be here, like your move, your high score, something like that. They could be at the top and the bottom and still keep things clustered like that. Yeah, I think that would work. I think that would work. And it still looks pretty much the same on the other breakpoints. This is the one that's a bit borderline, like maybe people will miss the hit, misclick on a different card, and then will be like, no, Johnny, I didn't mean to click that. Another thing is that we are able to use the keyboard to select a card, but it's not obvious at all which one we're selecting. I think we get like a very faint glow. So let's make that more obvious. And let's go to the Tailwind docs because they'll have something. Outline, ring, maybe this. say that a card when it's focused has a ring that's pink, which it does. But I guess we put it in the wrong place. It seems like, where did we put our borders? We've put the borders. So for Safari, I did do a tweak offline because Safari very often has some very niche bugs that no other browser has. And one of them was that the 3D flip would stop working. So even though the card is flipped, then the other side would become visible. And to get around that, I started adding surfaces, backgrounds. And therefore I needed to have the borders in every face, so individually. So it's not the container of the card, it's each side of the card that has the borders now. Which means that for the rings, we will need to do the same thing too. But interestingly, this never gets focus, it's the button that gets the focus. So let's move to the button again. And our problem was that this wasn't rounded, but we can round it. We can just say round it here too, and maybe repeat that. And maybe that will be enough. And pick a ring. Yeah, that should work. There is also the offset, I suppose. There's an offset color. Ooh, interesting. Cool effects. Cool effects for sure. So now it's a bit easier to play with the keyboard. If you're willing to tab around, still you can't use the keyboard keys or WASD to select a card. But maybe that's fine. That's something to feature creep in the future. All right. And it feels like the offset color may be something we want to remove. When it's active, it seems like it's getting out of hand. It's maybe what we want. Let's see. Still the same. Right. I think that's a decent enough effect and slightly more accessible. All right. Cool. Is there like a transparent too? That looks best if it doesn't actually look different when you click it. Maybe it does. So select it like this. When you click it's slightly different. So maybe not what you want. So let's try the transparent. Still looks the same, interestingly enough. Maybe that needs to apply even without focus. Maybe not. Oh well. I'm reverting back to this just because I guess transparent worked. But just because I want to move on, I think that's kind of usable now. Still, maybe last part is that this range I didn't like. It felt like these should be slightly smaller. So especially if you focus into them, it gets a bit lost. So let's see how we can get around that. So maybe I'm looking at the width for the cards. Maybe the width is 32. Is that the small breakpoint? No, it's the medium breakpoint, I guess. But it seems 42 is not a real breakpoint. 40 is. So yeah, now that we know what we want, we can say that for the large breakpoint and over we want this, but for the medium one maybe we want like 60 and 40. Which should be fine. Now the focus doesn't really get lost. Looks acceptable, I'd say. Looks acceptable. What we're striving for. Right, let's call design tweaks done and move on to the server deciding on the board. So now the board itself decides the board it's starting with this get initial board function, which I think I did do offline afterwards. Apologies for that. But the way Svelte works now is that you have a plus page.svelte UI component. That's the one that looks like HTML. And you can also have a plus page.server.ts TypeScript file, which can have a load method, which will be populating a property from for the page method, UI method, from the page UI component to consume. All this to say that I can find any other page where I'm doing this and take inspiration from that. So for our memory game, we want a plus page.server.ts file. We want to export a load method. And we can type this method with something that TypeScript auto-generates for us. So we can say that this is a page server load method. And SvelteKit has a generic page server load provided, but we want the dynamic one that was created just for this page, which you can always get from current directory /$types. That's some TypeScript / directory resolution alias magic that is happening there. But you can go on any other page.server.ts that you've already implemented and just copy and paste this. But if you don't remember, it's import type page server load. And then, if the autocomplete doesn't work for you, it's current directory $types GitHub Copilot remembers. All of this we're doing because now anything we return from this method is going to be fed into this sibling component. As a property, we'll be able to access from here, from the script tag. And what we want this page to get is the initial board. It's the board or the board pieces or anything like that. So all of this we can actually copy, paste it in this method. The card type, where did I put? In a special directory called types. This makes sense. So we can import from that one. Unfortunately, TypeScript isn't willing to comply, so we'll have to hunt it down like animals. Ah, it's a different name, that's why. It's actually card. Still doesn't quite know where it's from. So import this from my own file, so this isn't magically created. That's a bit confusing. But TypeScript SvelteKit auto-generates this while the server is running. I've created this file. It's this file here. I want to import the card type to use it here. I will probably want to have a getInitialBoard method, and we've created in the last episode this shuffle array method to shuffle an array. And the emojis should be just strings. Just call them emojis. It's an array of strings. And then we can say that our board is getInitialBoard and passing the emojis we want. And I'm doing this because maybe we have a library of emoji sets somewhere. We have a collection, and we have like the random collection, a faces only collection, a cat collection, flag collection, that sort of thing. So we can pass a different set to this method for it to shuffle and return a different board. And this load method will return the board, and anything we return here will be put inside a data component prop, which can also be auto-typed thanks to SvelteKit magic. So it will look into this load method, figure out that you're returning a board, figure out what the board is based on the typings, and type it for us. And again, it will figure it out from the same place. So it will, you can type the data as page data, which you import from types. So let's import that. And we say that the data is page data. And then the quick and dirty trick that Ritz suggests in the migration is that you can actually do a reactive assignment like we do here. This is SvelteKit magic reactive assignment, and destructure whatever the property you want to have from data there. So now this will know that data doesn't have an idea. You know that page data actually has the board, and that's the thing you can destructure from here. And then we want to pass the board to the board component. And make the board component not do any of that or that. We want to export this as a component prop, which means that it will be fed the board. So now our UI in page.svelte is giving it the board pieces, and it's up to the board to get them and render them as needed. Everything else, this one, so reset, interestingly enough, will not work because we will need to request from the server again to get the board when we want to reset. So get me a new board, I guess. Which is interesting, but for now let's give it like an empty array, which it won't particularly like if we refresh, but the point is now, without the client doing any calculation, we are getting a new board every time we refresh the page, which is kind of cool. Again, it's not like this will take too much time or be too much work for any modern phone to do. But if we had, you know, like 1,000 emoji sets, like you wouldn't want to be shipping them in JavaScript in the client. That's way too many kilobytes, probably more than a few pictures worth. So we can let the server have every emoji collection we want, and only actually ship the one to the client, only render the one, which again should be faster. Like prior experience tells me that it's a good idea to do before things get out of hand, but I'm not benchmarking any of this, so who knows, maybe it's one of those things that you just do because it's good practice and it may cut you out in the future, but doesn't really have a meaningful impact. My phone did flash, so I will switch to the very, very barren face view. I should have something on this side, I don't know what, to fill in the gap, maybe the chat, maybe something like that. And I keep mentioning an app that just has the overlays that you want so you can add to your stream. I think there is a lot of value in that. If you want to try coding something like that, I will use it, but at some point we'll probably get to making it ourselves here in a stream, because I would enjoy it. And the tools I have tried, like Stream Elements, I guess, not thrilled with. There is room for improvement. All right, let's look at what we've done. So the server decides on the board, but we are still not getting the new board from the server. So we should request it again. And I wonder, how would we do that? Not actually sure. I am talking about this part, which shows when the game ends. When the game ends, you can click to play again, and I guess you can like window reload, window location reload, and that will make it work instead of reassigning the board. Let's give it a quick try before we think about it too much. Wow. What were the chances? I'm not paying nearly enough attention for this to actually work. Right, so you click play again. You want to hit the server and get another board back, but you kind of do, but I'm refreshing the whole page, which is a bit naughty. We shouldn't be doing that. But at least you don't have like a broken button. So maybe that's good enough for now. Maybe. I'll say yes, and maybe have like a better reloading. And then, so we can move on to the seeded randomness. So you'll notice that in our server, we are using the shuffle array method, which uses mathRandom, which is a JavaScript method to get a random number, floating point number from 0 to 1, so 0.001 and everything in between 0 and 1. But cannot be seeded. Every time you call it, you'll get a different result, or an equally random or pseudo-random or whatever that is result, and you cannot recreate it. In some languages, you can do like something like seed mathRandom, and then you can guarantee that with this seed, your first math random will get this number, the second one will get that number. I remember watching a video about Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, that someone has figured out how the configuration of a board of one infamous minigame that took way too long and was crushing speedrunners' dreams. They figured out that if you give it enough data of how the board looks, I guess, they'll know which seed was used and then crack that this is the actual board that you get, or something like that. But yeah, even Legend of Zelda Wind Waker does something like that, where every game has like a million, a billion, a trillion, I don't know, an incalculable amount of random numbers being used to specify whether this thing has a rupee inside when you cut the grass, whether this will sign or not. All of these things are based on on random numbers. And when you can seed your random number generator, then you know what the outcome will be. So I suppose that extension or that little app, when you gave it enough information on what random checks, what results you got from your random checks at that point in the game, it could figure out the whole board combination. There is a whole video on that, which may be better in explaining what that does. The point is, in JavaScript, you cannot seed math random, but there is a library that we can use to do so, and I'll try to use it today. You can also implement your own pseudo randomness that's based on seeds as well, but that's a bit much. If someone has done it, then you should do it too. You should leverage what they've done, although it is an interesting subject. So if you want to read about different pseudo randomness algorithms, which ones are faster, which ones are more realistic, and which ones are actually closer to reality, which isn't always realistic to humans, maybe try to implement your own random number generator. But I'm definitely rambling. So the library is called seed random. So let's npm install it. Cannot copy it. I believe I can type that much. Oh, and let me start my timer again. My serious coding timer. So now we have this library, and we can seed it. And I'm wondering, should we make our shuffle array method actually seed math random? How do people call it? RNG. All right, so let's call it RNG and type it as a method that gets nothing but returns a number. And did the copilot suggest that I can default this to math random? So math floor is not based on randomness, so that's fine. But then I'm saying this is my random number generator. It's a method that takes nothing, no arguments, and then returns a number. And it defaults to math random, which is pretty cool. So now we're using this in place of math random, but by default, if we give it nothing, it will use math random. So this should still shuffle the board every time, unpredictably. That's pretty awesome. And what we actually want now is when we call this method on the server, so paid server, yes, that's one of the things that still kind of upset me with the refactor, that you have so many files with the same name, but they are in different directories. That's the silver lining. So now when we call shuffle array, we may call it with a random number generator. So maybe at the start, would we be trying to think whether would we have more random number checks, but maybe not. Let's create a random number generator from this library we just brought. It doesn't get auto-imported, which always makes me feel like there is something wrong with it. How did we install it? What's the name of the library? This in random. So no type definitions for this library, no TypeScript type definitions personally, but maybe in the types. Definitely type repository. They do have one. Great. So now it knows what this is. Now we have our RNG method. Our RNG method is yet again a method that just takes a number. So, and we can default this to math random. But in our shuffle array, so here we want to pass the RNG that we got from here. So we want to pass the seeded RNG from here. If we reload the page, it should randomly work every time. But if we actually give it a seed, like ABC, we should be getting the same board every time. So hands up, crazy face, hands up. So we've successfully seeded the randomness. This means that we can have our playwright test also test this board and check, like have it click the first card, and then the third one should stay on the screen. But if you click second and whatever you want to call this, X, Y, 1, 1 coordinates, depending on your outlook, then it should revert back and only have 2 cards revealed. So that would be helpful. Of course, we don't want the seed to always be ABC, because that would be boring. We may evolve this game to be like Wordle style, where you get a different seed every day. So if you play in the same day, you always get the same board, and maybe you want to improve your score or something. I don't really know. But for now, let's also say that you can specify the seed if you want. And that means that we'll need to get it from the parameters. So let's say as like a hidden feature, if we say that the seed is 1, 2, 3, then we should be using that seed there. So as a query parameter, I want to be able to specify seed, and then I get the seed, this exact seed, the board with this exact seed. How do we do that? We look at the SvelteKit docs and maybe search for query parameters. Right, so all we need is to find the URL, which must be somewhere in the event URL. Yeah. So seed is that's way different than what we saw. Yeah, it's in the search params. Come on, Tony. Search params get seed, or does this take null? Maybe. So pass the seed here. Should be undefined. Does this return undefined? No, it returns null. So, or undefined. So now should be random every time, but if I visit seed equals ABC, then I should be getting, oof, interesting. I am getting the same one every time. Maybe not. It looks like I'm not. I would be expecting that you'd get the hands up one here. So let's try it again. Memory search params seed equals ABC. Oh, it worked here. So we've used this seed before, so we're getting the hands up all the time. So what did I do wrong here? This is the deployed one. We haven't made this change live. Whoops. So yeah, on the big screen, this should also work the same. So first one, always the hands. And these are different. No matter how many times we play, we get the same ones because we've seeded this. And again, like if you find a nice board, then you can share it to your friends, I suppose. You can find the seed or copy link to this board. Maybe we'll have this functionality or something. And then you can keep replaying your favorite. But also, we can actually store the seed that you've used in your cookies or something like that. We'll see. But the fundamental part we want to do here is have the seeded randomness, and we've managed. Listen, besides meow in the comments, says background music is nice and unobtrusive. Thank you very much. I've been getting like one more track every week or a couple more tracks. So at some point it should also stop repeating every like 45 minutes or something. But let's look at the agenda. So seeded randomness, multiple card sets, that would be fun to do as well. So we're saying that in our server, we have our emojis specified in line, but we can say that actually maybe this is a record of strings to string arrays, and maybe the default one is this, and then we can do like a flag. And then you'll just have to see me look at the flags, I guess. Let's do the places I've done videos from. We need to expand. To places I've recently been. Have I been elsewhere? All right. So a few of them, maybe too many bluish countries. Pick another one in the comments. I feel like I'm gonna let somebody out, but of course, let's go for one of the coolest flags in the world, South Africa. And now we can look at we can find the emojis by saying Emoji collections. Video Copilot is trying to do something cool there, but we can access like the flags. And now we're getting the flags. So, Adrian, I'm gonna use your flag if what you're saying is correct. So you're suggesting different seed every day. Can you get the current date and use that as the seed? That's a great shout. So let's try to see if that works. So I'm trying to think if we get the timestamp that will change every like millisecond, and using the current time as the seed is usually what you do in other programming languages when you do want like more like randomness, when you don't want to specify a seed and you just want some random numbers every time. Using the current time is a common way to do it. But I guess what we want is get am I using the console log for this? I suppose to date string, is that a real thing? Would this be different per locale? I guess that will be random every day too. Maybe we don't need to overthink it. I was thinking that maybe we could get slice like 0 to 12. Nope. 10. So this could be our seed as well, but maybe the date string could be fine. Not sure. So instead of undefined, this would be the current date. So if there is no seed in the params, use this new method. This should still give us the hands up. Oof, different one. Interesting. Ah, of course, it's the it's the flags. So we do get the Barbados every time, but without a seed. We get Spain, which is appropriate, and we get it every time because the seed is now always gonna be this, and tomorrow it's gonna be -27. So sneak peek for tomorrow. If we do keep this same method, the first one is gonna be Barbados. That's quite fun. But yeah. If we do keep our random checks in place, it should be the same thing. So yeah, that's a very cool way to do it and get a different board every day, but still have this word-like feeling where everyone in the world goes and gets the same puzzle to solve each day, and then you can compare. It's like, I did it in 3, I did it in 4. So Adrian, you win. You get to replace which one? Maybe now it feels like even more attacking. So I haven't been to South Africa before, so as cool as that flag is, I'll have to wait to be invited by my ex-flatmate again and have a great time over there. So for now, I wonder which days will get like a super pleasant composition of you get 2 sets every time. Alright, not to get lost into playing this for too long, but I am gonna do it. Because a potential problem here is that you're done with the game, you want to play again, and the question is, do you want to play again and it's the same board, maybe not. Maybe you do want to beat your score and solve it faster, I suppose. But maybe you want to go into like a practice mode where the seed is random again and not based on the current seed. But considerations for another time. Right. So different sets. We can do the same thing and say emoji collection or set, card set, just set, or default. Maybe not. So this is the card set. And I'm thinking yes, we need a default here to keep TypeScript happy. Or go back to this. So if it's interesting that you do get two of the same every time, even though you use a different collection. So we did see that even with the Spanish collection, you get the first and second card to be matching. And that is because the only randomness check at this point is the array shuffling. So we give it an array that's this doubled, and I guess it's getting the third item in either case becomes the first and second cards, which is interesting, fun. But in any case, I went up there to specify that I want my card set to be flags. Now I get this, and if I made it up, then you get the default card set, which is pretty fun, I would say. We can also create a drop-down, so the user can select what they get. We are on the multiple card sets, so we can actually do it. And maybe return as a property the object keys of the emoji collections. So we should be getting as a component property the card sets now. So default and flags, which means that we can also, so now magically SvelteKit will know that data also has card sets, which is a string array. Card sets. And then we can do a select and say it's not React, so that's not exactly what we want. We want each card set as a card set, I guess. Doesn't have an ID, it's just a string. So we have a drop down here, and you can be flags or you can be the default. If you switch, get nothing. How would we make this work? Because we need to tell the server, all right, now give us the board again. But we want the faces to be like this. That's pretty interesting. We could like overthink this and separate the positions that have like matching numbers and the actual sets, but I think that's probably too much work. What we actually want is on chains. Let's see the navigation options with SvelteKit. Can we pass? This can be a URL, which is cool. So if our select changes, I want to go to none of this. Then the card set, I want it to be current target value. And then I want to go to this URL. Would this work? Let's see. Guess not. Let's reveal one. And then this should be running. Let's confirm that it's actually running. Or look a bit more. I saw that it has like the replace state option. Invalidate. State any? What is this? Replace state, keep focus. All of those things, I guess, have to do with the history navigation state and not our state, but I'm not that sure. And also, let's double check. So we are just in the memory page. Maybe let's open the network tab, make this a bit longer so you can see it too. And if I switch this to flags, we do not navigate somewhere, which is interesting, I guess. But we'll figure it out. Before the break, let's just do the old, almost shameful console log debugging. So let's see, does this fire trigger? Yeah, all right. But the URL is invalid. Is it because I don't have a root? I guess so. So instead of being too fancy, do I have the current URL somehow? Don't really know. So let's just say we can fix this. And the base, I think GitHub Copilot did try to fix this for me. Yeah, it seems like it worked. So if I remove the card set from here and I switch, so you can see it doesn't have a query parameter, and I switch to flags, then we do navigate to the flags one. I can stay to the default one. What happens if we go to flags? It switches and restarts, which is interesting. All right, so we got somewhere. Let's make a little break and get back at it. We are in the multiple card sets, collections type of thing. And the complication is, can I do that without refreshing the page and losing the state of the board? Maybe, maybe not, we'll see. Maybe we will need to transition nicely to the persisting the board state using cookies. We'll see. Let's switch back. Maybe as a palette, I guess we did do multiple card sets, even though switching between them is slightly questionable. Let's create a third one. Popular. I don't know where we're getting this from. Surely this will just be the same as above. Maybe not. Are these really my most popular ones? I think there is no repeat somehow, so that's kind of fun. So now popular has appeared here, and you can switch to that one, and we will see how we'll advance. So persist the board state using cookies. The question here is, it may help us solve this problem too. Wait a minute, why did they get flags? Oh. Ah, right, this needs to start with a selected one, right? I see. So is option selected? Nope. Default value is the selected card set, surely, but should the server tell us? Yeah. Different place. So now this will also have a selected card set, and we can say that our select starts with this. Is it something different? Initial value. I don't think it's in each option, is it? I think that was the old way to do it. Guess not. I guess I'm making things up. So this never existed, but actually we can say that this is selected if the card set is equal to the selected card set. Apparently that's the way to do this. So now it knows that if we are card set flags, we are in the card set flags one. And popular also matches this, so should be fine. Should the server tell us this? I think so. Also, do we have a select option somewhere in this app? I guess not. We do have inputs in other places, like here. Maybe any other input other than that. That's just to make the input a bit nicer, I suppose. That arrow feels a bit squished to the right, but it's not too bad. Still, we have like a nice little helper. Is this? No, that's not what I mean. Tailwind UI, am I logged in there? I guess the answer is gonna be no. Yes. This one looks nicer. Too many things. I guess the padding right is for the select to look nicer. What have they done? Ah, of course, this is the native one, but still, it looks much nicer than ours. What gives? Is it the specific padding? Maybe? Let's see. Guess not. Oh well, definitely something to figure out the later date. Let's just give it a label though. All right, enough with this for now. We have managed to switch this around, and now we're talking about how do we persist this state. So if I refresh, it won't lose the cards that I may have opened, and that's a great seed. So I'm able to just click those two, and every time I refresh, I know all I need is to click these two. And the answer for this could be cookies. So we may be able to get the initial board state according to cookies from the user. The easiest way to do this would be local storage. So we can, every time we click a button, or maybe we keep some separate state to say that the revealed cards are these, and have like a little map saved in local storage. But it's usually more fun to do those things on the server. It's maybe more helpful because it can open other opportunities. So for example, now we are already having the server tell us what is the starting board, but if we were storing the state in cookies, it would be able to reveal or keep hidden specific cards. Well, if you do local storage, the server cannot access your browser's local storage, so it would have to start as everything hidden and then reveal and sync with reality, sync with local storage once it hits the client, which is not bad. Maybe even it would be fun to have the reveal happen after you are there, but we'll see. In any case, we'll need some information where when we get the initial board, we need like a map of the revealed items, I suppose. And the emoji sets, how would that look? Grid, states. I think here we have like a card state. Chords to state. So. Index to states, indices, I to states. Bring this in, or null, I guess. And we can say that your state, if there is no I to states, then your state is hidden. If there is I to states, then your state is I to states, and then your index. So now, when we call getInitialBoard with null, everything should work the same. But if somehow should we call this initial state? Like I to states to me means indices to states. But maybe it's easier to call initial state. Maybe. So the key is going to be the index of its emoji, its card. And the other one is going to be, is it hidden or not hidden? But let's try to recreate this. I'll keep calling it indices to states. And let's say that somehow our indices to states is, we need 16 of these. And let's say that just the first two, maybe another one, start like this, and we can pass this to our getInitialBoard method. But it's not happy because we should be typing it explicitly like this. So now, not quite. Selected. Interesting. what are our states again? And revealed. So this is interesting because I guess we're doing the mapping after before the shuffle. So if we do it after the shuffle, we do it here. Maybe it's gonna be happy. Let's see again what we've deleted. Right. So the random shuffle happens before we map our states into the emojis. So now every time the first and second item are gonna be revealed because this is what we've specified here. Everything else is gonna be hidden, but item number, well, I guess 10, because we're index 0. So that's 4th, 8th, 9, 10 is selected, and I'm supposed to match that one. So let's try to find grimace is there. So maybe I aborted or refreshed the game in this stage where I've already revealed these two, but I'm trying to reveal the grimace. Then it knows that this is the last one I've selected. And we'll keep it if I refresh, if this was real and not faked out. So that's the thing that we should be getting somehow. And one of the ways to get it would be using cookies. Did I restart this? Oh no. Well, that's an opportunity for me to get another sip and then dive into things once again. So one of the things that I want now is to manage to serialize, I guess, this state in a quickie and then parse it afterwards. And for that, I would need to keep updating and setting this cookie all the time. All the time. So how do we set a cookie that looks like this? Don't really know. What else does our page server load method have? It does have the request or the event, or what does it actually have? If we look at our hooks file, this is the thing where we do like many things from cookies. So we have the request, and the request has headers, and the headers has a cookie, and inside that cookie, there can be many things. One of them is the theme, and the other one is the session cookie and the refresh session cookie and all of that. But now we're thinking about adding a memory game state cookie, something like that. So I guess we still want to do something like this. So in our server, we do have the request. And we do have, can get the cookie header from it. And instead of putting it in the locals, we don't really need it. We want to I'm going into the hooks index file again. We want to get the cookie value. Const initial, what did we call it? Indices to states. And that's gonna be get cookie value. Here's the cookie, but we'll call this memory game state. Memory board. Just memory game would be enough. Just if people do look at this cookie, they won't be like, oh my god, what is this? And now indices to state cookie, and then we'd want to parse this. And say that if we do have a cookie, parse it, or else it's null. So we don't have that cookie, so it will always be null. Let me slide this here. We do have a few cookies, and the idea is that we'll have a memory game cookie set somehow. How will we do that? Who knows? So one of the ways would be to make everything this does server-side, a server-side operation. So we click the button and we actually hit the server and inform the server to say, we've clicked this, which may be good because we do have a bit of a delay with the transition anyway, so it may be hidden from that. And we have an artificial delay with the timeout here. So this could actually be the server doing some work there. And that may be fun. So maybe all of this, handling the card click and all of this could happen on the server. That could be fun. I forgot yet again to add the timer. So this is an interesting stretch. I'll refresh myself with water and coffee and then get back to it. So for now, everything after the initial load happens client side. User clicks a card, and then it's this logic that runs to say whether a card should stay selected or should become revealed, or stay selected or go back to hidden. And my thinking is that maybe it could be the server that decides this. Maybe it could be the server that decides this. And would this be like a loading prop? So every time we click a button, its card is a button, we actually hit the server to say, I've clicked this, what happens next? And then it feeds us with the next state of the board. That's an interesting way to do it, to say the least. So let's see if it's gonna work. We have an enhanced form method somewhere, so you can play this without JavaScript too. Let's bring it in. We're using the enhanced form to do this toggle, I guess, which is quite cool. And maybe we want its button to be a form. Do we want its button to be a form? Why not? As expected. Will we want everything to be like this? Maybe not. Let's see. So maybe UI wise, that's all we need. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's give a bit of margin here. So each card is actually a form, and maybe it has a hidden input again. Been using this trick quite a lot. And the value is gonna be its index, I suppose. But or coordinate, just in case. Should we just call it value? Nah. So it should be told its coordinate and then have it in a hidden input. So when we use this form, it hits the server somewhere to say that I've been clicked, I'm this coordinate, give me back the board again. Let's see, maybe this is crazy enough to work. And we have an input type hidden here. Just trying to get inspiration from elsewhere. And it looks like the idea card, we do a similar thing for the star button. So this star button hits the server yet again. And we're using enhance form, which is a svelte action that will appear if you use the wizard and use some of the projects it cast false for you. It's very handy for sure. And I'm not sure if we'll do anything while it's pending, but maybe we'll want like an optimistic update afterwards. We'll see. And we don't want it in the input, of course, we want it in the form. It's called enhance form. I don't know if we'll do some optimistic UI for all of this, we'll see. But the idea is that, all right, that's cool. This is already disabled. That this should be picked up by another method from our page. Don't need this anymore. From our server endpoint. So besides the load method, which used to be like a get method, we can export post method, which is gonna be what SvelteKit calls action. So we can type that, and I can look at other actions we have already created in this repo, like this one. And I guess we'll be getting some form data, which will have the hidden input. And then we'll see. We'll return nothing probably. So back to our server, post action. We're getting some form data from the request. We need a curly here. And this needs to be a sync. So parse the form data. We should have a coordinate. Just confirm from our card component that we called it coordinate. We did. So we have the coordinate here. And that should result in us setting a quickie. All right, that's what I was going with here. We should be setting a quickie which I guess updates the existing state. But maybe that's already a bit too far because I guess we should be setting the cookie already. But can we set a cookie from the load method? The answer should be yes. But I haven't done it yet. That's not the one we want. Oh, I guess it is. So apparently this now gets a set headers. Amazing. So our load method, we want to get to set a header, and the header is gonna be a set cookie header. And the cookie that we want to set is gonna be the serialized state that we were talking about. Interesting. So if this cookie exists, I guess, we don't need to set it again. So if there was no indices to states, that's when we want to set another header. And we want to call this header memory game. Just in case we forget what it's called. And then, what do we want this value to be? I don't really know. Where else are we doing set cookie in this project? We return it in this post, I guess. But that's different. That's what we'll do elsewhere. And we do it in this endpoint. Interesting. Anyway, what I want to see is maybe these things. For extra security, same site lags should be enough. HTTP only path. Of course, is there a security leak if you do try to set the cookie from a different site? Not really, but it's a good practice. Why not use the defaults that will keep you secure for cases where it does matter? But the value should be serialized board state. And that should be indeed this on stringify board. All of our board, we want the state to be a record of integers, 2 values. So based on the index. So actually, we don't want to map. Or maybe we don't. Maybe we do want that. How did we do the board now? So we're looking for indices to states, checking the index. I guess this would be the same if it's an array, isn't it? Even if it wasn't an object. This is kind of funny. So let's say it's this card state array, and then the indexes just have to match. We can call it card states. Serialized card states. And then we can map this. And indeed, it is going to be what Copilot suggested. So just the state, not the face of the card. So destructure the state and do that. And then we've stringified this. We can pass it as a value here. And that should set us a quickie with our initial state. Let's see. Let's refresh this page and see if we have this quickie. And the answer is no. What is indices to states? Ah, right, of course. This should be null, so we should be getting here. Let's refresh again. Oh, it did add it. And every one of them is hidden. Cool. This must have worked. And now we get to the fun bit where we need to click the button and change this from being like hidden to actually this one shouldn't be hidden anymore. And for that, there are set headers again. I see. Why didn't I use it in a different place? I'm not sure. So if there is no coordinate or coordinates below 0, coordinate above 15, I guess. I don't want any of that. We can throw an error. And this is as helper from SvelteKit. Would this ever be a number? Am I overthinking it? Maybe. So you've clicked something and therefore we want to set the headers again. But how do we figure out the board? Is it going to be the same? I guess. We'll do the same thing as we do in the load method. We need to get the cookie too. we can say if we don't have this cookie, but if we do have it, then indices to states is this. And the next indices to states is this. And if the index is not equal to percent coordinate, and just return the state. Or the other way around. If the index is the parse index, then return what it was, or else return revealed. All right. Why is this upset? Ooh. Let's say that this is the infamous array of card states. And then we can set the same thing again. All right, so this has no logic to say, should it be revealed or should it do something else? I don't know. But the first thing is, would this actually work? Would clicking a button actually flip stuff? And on click. So now the card is upset. Why? So I don't want this anymore. I don't want this anymore, but I do want the coordinate. And the coordinate, let's just say it's the index. All right, click a button, see what happens. The answer is nothing. But why? Our form is not actually hitting anything. Whoops. So I have this form, but I don't have an action for the form, which is a bit unfortunate. We're using forms before. Here, the method is post, and the action is hit the profile page, I guess. And for us, the method is going to be post and still hit memory, games memory. So now, did something try to happen? Who knows? We'll see. We have this file. We have the network requests. Interesting. So we did try to save a server thingy, but I guess our cookie was messed up. Oh, it's not an array anymore. It would have updated something. So let's go back to our server file. So why is this not an array anymore? This should be an array. Let's refresh again. So we start like this, and this is an array. But somehow, do we do something different? What do we do? Serialized cards, we map the board. Oof. But no, that's not the case. This should be indeed an array of states. If the index is the updated index, return it as revealed, or else just return whatever it was before. Oof, and I didn't serialize it here. I even called it serialized card states instead of doing it inline. Oh well. So now it seems like it does update, but it doesn't know to invalidate and refetch the data. Doesn't know that it needs to refetch the board. So we do this. We hit game's memory, which is where we are, but SvelteKit doesn't know that we should be updating everything. Interesting. We'll figure it out for sure in the next and possibly last section. What if I remove this? Should be the same, I guess. Ooh, interesting. So what if I just do this? If I don't have an action, will it just hit whatever page we're on? I guess the answer is yes. And it will work without an action. We just need to specify that it's a post method, which is quite interesting. But it doesn't know that this should be invalidating wherever we are. Let's do a small break. Hello Jorge, how are you doing? Switch back to the face cam. So we are at the state where we are persisting the state using cookies, but we are not actually getting the update until we manually refresh, which of course we don't want. And we've also simplified the game logic in that it doesn't actually check whether you have something selected or not. We will need to lift this from wherever we had it before. The board had a very big method, the handle card click, which was the one that was checking all the cards, seeing if everything is selected. If not, then blah, blah, blah. That's a great method to test as well. That's a great method to have a test-driven developed it, but we haven't. Hey, maybe next time. But yeah, we will be replicating this. However, the first thing that we want is to know that submitting the form here should be causing a refetch, should be causing Svelte to want to be told what the board is again. So it will fetch the data again. Did we get a... What are we getting? Are we getting 204s? 204 it says. Suspicious. 204, no content. That makes sense. You may return an ID, I guess. And this is what we're doing. I guess if there was a section in actions, can also declare actions. Status, blah, blah, blah. So we don't want to return a location. We don't want to return a quickie, we are doing that. But we also want to say that we need to invalidate and refetch. How do we do that? Svelte does do that magic elsewhere in this app even, so when I click this, it knows that this has been updated. So it knows to refetch the starring status of this thing, but it doesn't know to refetch the status of the board when I've clicked here. For some reason. That's the thing to figure out now. And I'm great as well, Jorge. It's been a fun week once again. And the latest SvelteKit changes broke nothing because I'm not using named layouts, so that's always a big win. We got them. Right, so am I doing something different in the idea card? So idea card is also a form. I guess I am optimistically updating the state here and updating that this is start, but it's not overridden in the end. Even when I didn't have this, it would get the star animation eventually. It would get to the star state. Don't think I did anything extra. Method post, the action was this. What else could it be? I will attempt, hoping against hope, to post the action here. So the action is games memory, which should be where we are. And yet we do hit this, it says no content. I wonder if we should restart something else, if we should be returning something else to notify SvelteKit that it needs to reload. I don't think so. Oh, so API will likely change in the near future. Oh dear. Dependencies. Could that do something? Remember that you can specify like a depends array or something. So we're going back. Let's put everything here. Our server file. Does this get depends? I mean, it should be something that is taken care for you by magic. So we have this load method. Does it have a depends? No. It's for the server side load method. Let's look at the agenda again. We wanted to do, we are trying to do the persisting state using cookies. Would this be easier to do if we're using a DB? Probably not, unless we set up like a real-time subscription or something. But we don't want to go that far, I wouldn't say. We would be stuck with the same problem that we're having, in that now it depends on this cookie, and we cannot, for the life of us, tell SvelteKit that this has resulted to the board being reshuffled, I guess. The state of the board has changed, so you should fetch it again. So how do we do that? So invalidate. Invalidate, you say. Let's see. Is that a method that I can just bring in? The answer is no. Do we get here? I think so. We get here, and then we run invalidate, and then nothing happens. Do we need to await it? Probably not. What if we invalidate everything? All right, so if we invalidate everything, it does get it. So what's the thing we're missing? Like, is it a weird key that I've added? Yeah, it's not that one. We need to invalidate everything. It doesn't make sense. What's the URL we're in here? So this won't work anymore. Click yes on cookies. Let's delete our memory game cookie. And now we're back to this not persistent. What could we be waiting? What could we be waiting? Href. I guess it's because we're not fetching. If I don't use enhanced form, what happens? I guess the page reloads. Huh. So that's kinda interesting. But even if I do this and the page reloads, the first time it comes back, the cookie is not set yet. Interesting. Interesting. Like, are we doing something where the cookie is not set yet? But then, even if we just invalidate, it should work, right? Not quite sure. But for now, should we just invalidate everything? The server responds, invalidate everything, and then things will be working? And move on with our lives? Probably. Because still, we haven't replicated our previous logic, which is that your selections actually need to match. So let's do that. Let's do that server side. So we had this huge method. Which now we want to be in this file. Maybe not, because it's getting quite big. And we are mutating the given board, I suppose, which is the Svelte way. So we want a board, and the board state. And the current board state is, once again, an array of card states and the clicked coordinate and a coordinate, which is a number. We don't want to worry about reverting at this point. We want to find if there is a previously selected card, but in this case, this is just a state. It's not an object. And then the current board state, we can flip it around. Is that what we're doing? I may need to open it on the side. This file. Again, a good idea for tests here, because there is a lot of business logic that I've managed to create here. So we're finding the previously selected card index, and then we're marking the current one as selected. This mutates the current board. So on this coordinate, we are making this selected. We're finding if any were selected before, but in any case, we do want to mark the current coordinate as selected. If we did have a previously selected card, we did find its index. If we didn't have it, then the index is going to be -1. So the current board state. Oof, we do need the faces because we want to see if they're matching. Oh no. There was a reason for this. There was a reason we did this. Makes sense. So let's go back to our server thingy. Yeah, I think I got how this works. So I guess we should keeping track of the face and the state, unfortunately. What would happen if we change the states? I don't really know. Don't really know. And so what are we doing here? Serialized card states. We have the board. We get the initial board. This becomes serialized board, I'd say. And it's literally the whole board. And we'll figure out what happens if people want to change their faces afterwards. But the important thing is that now this is the board state quickie. and previous board state or board state. The update index is this. And this, I guess, will be the next board state. But this is a lie. This is not a card state array. This is a card array. So you need to destructure the state from there. And then you need to return this thing. Alright, let's see if we did anything. Guess not. No cookie set here, but what did we mess up? Serialized board should be fine. Oof, is it too big to store in cookies? Oh no. Maybe that's the case. Maybe we need to store things in a database, but if that's the case, we'll need to do that at a later date. Let's see. Yeah, so our serialized board is this, which is too big for a quickie, I guess. How would we know? We may need a clever way to do this, to specify for the server to know what's the face of the one that you've selected before, or whether it's a pair. Maybe that would be it. Maybe a way to cheat. We need some information. Whether you've clicked something, all right, its matching one is this. How would we do that? Would we set it as like a different cookie? I'm not sure, but unfortunately, this may be the way to stop things. We are doing all of this to get stuff from the cookies, but we'll stop doing that. We'll keep doing the random seed stuff, but now the initial board, we don't want to get the card states anymore. Will always be hidden. And we won't be doing this to set headers. We won't be passing this. And I guess no post request for now to update anything. Sometimes. And I also guess we won't be needing this method anymore. And for the card, we may keep it inside the form once again. But the board has this crazy method that we'll use again. And we'd say would we keep this inside the form? I guess so. So let's keep our post method, but have it do nothing. for now. And let's say when the server returns, actually return, maybe not even when the server returns, immediately run an on-click, which I think from before. We didn't need this. Let's say it's something that takes a coordinate and does nothing. Be a number. Say this is a number. And the board, again, coordinate is the index. And we have an on-click, and the on-click is the handle card click. So we should work the same as before, at least. And we're also doing some extra network requests that at some point we'll be doing something to persist our state in between refreshes and that sort of thing. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out the best way to do it. It could be that should we just persist it to a database, but then that's too many records for people to be clicking around. If you are a logged in user, maybe that'd be cool to do, persist in the database, but like for anyone that plays the game, just persist it. I don't know about that. Maybe not the best idea. So let's look at the agenda. And yeah, failed on this one. Whoops. Yeah, we did talk about this at least. And we didn't do our high score and move tracking. Maybe we should do that and end on a potential win. We didn't do the picking, we didn't do the hit stop post stop, which would have been fun as well. But yeah, we didn't do any reloading at all in the end. But yeah, let's see if we can keep track of the misses. So, if this happens, then you've correctly matched up the cards. This has happened. If this doesn't happen, you have incorrectly selected a second card, and that could be the point where we like shake the screen or shake the cards or something like that. That could be fun. But we can also keep a counter of misses. So let wrong guesses equal 0, and we can render that on screen. Should it be part of the board? Maybe not. And we have the server, this method as well. Ooh, many things here we didn't use. Yeah, but I'm thinking of this file, the UI file. And we can say that maybe at this level have a wrong guesses, which is starts as 0. And here we can say maybe we can put all of this in a div, an aside even. Let's say that it's this that has a margin. And maybe all of this is larger letters. And can pass their own guesses to the board. And therefore, when we get into these states where we've done the wrong guess, we can make it plus equal 1. Increment by 1. So correct guess, nothing happens. Incorrect guess, this should increase. What's with our inability to track the state? Did we actually pass it around correctly? And export this. We do get here, which is quite interesting. If I refresh hard enough, maybe it will happen. All right, let's bring it into the board level for now. And see if it's us. So right before here, let's add the div with the wrong guesses again. But we want to start it with 0. Now the mutation does work, since we did it in the correct level, I guess. So add 1. And maybe we can even do it in here. And if we reset, it should also go back to 0. But I do like the idea of having the state here. Maybe we'll be able, the UI, because that makes it a bit easier to like shake the screen, which could be fun. But in that case, I guess the board would have to need a method handle the wrong guess. And then, instead of calling this, just do this. We don't need to reset like that. But then in our UI, we put our div back in here, but also our export our let. And we also want the wrong guess. What that's going to be doing is wrong guesses plus equals 1. I guess we didn't expunge wrong guesses from existence here, so now it should be fine. It's a different place again. Just keeps it around. I think my machine is frying. So we have introduced some lag, which we'll need to expunge, but we can see that the wrong guesses keep appearing. Can we do something to like shake the whole screen if there is an error? Maybe, but maybe we'd want to shake the wrong cards, I suppose. So maybe not for now. Maybe we want to introduce like a shaking state. So when when it's selected and before it goes hidden, then it becomes like shaken in its boot state. I see the lag, and I did say, like, is it because we are trying to hit the server here? Is it because we're doing the request? And the answer is maybe. So let me revert back to what we had without inputs and forms and see if that affects things. Yeah, of course. Yeah, without the network request, this goes faster, which is something to consider as well. Would we want to persist the state like that there? Network requests are also expensive, so it's not all about doing everything on the server. Quite interesting. But let's quickly look at Tailwind UI, Tailwind CSS. Animations, what do they have? Bounce. So I'm just thinking. We can make it bounced if it goes back into being revealed, but we probably don't want that. I'll think of a better way to make like the shake. Maybe the whole screen shake would be kind of fun. In here, we do have all of this. So if we animate bounce this, what happens? Bit excessive. But that'd be a way to like play an animation when there is a wrong guess. So here we could turn some state on for a little while that applies a shaking class or something that does that effect. and then it's a bit more impactful when they get a wrong guess. Or when they get a correct one, you can have like a mini confetti show up. Alright, so most of the things we did are gonna stick, not all of them. Let me know in the comments here or in other videos if you'd like to see more of this, keep extending this game, go for Persistence, which I did put in the title here. I really thought that we were gonna do it, but we ran into constraints. What can you do? And as always, there isn't a set path of things that I want to cover. There are some things that I have in mind that may be exciting to cover, but mostly it's from your suggestions. So in the videos, you let me know that, oh, I want to do this, or maybe you should explain that, or whatever else. And I always consider that. If more people ask for the same thing or a similar thing, then I do try to make a proper edited video on it, or at the very least a live stream as we're doing today. So if people are more excited to dig into something else, of course I won't keep extending this game forever. Although I do think Persistence would be interesting to crack. Local storage is a way to do the thing we're trying to do with cookies. I realize now something that maybe for others was obvious, that in local storage you have a much larger limit of what you're allowed to put in there, while with cookies you should be a bit more sensible and you can't make your cookie as big as you want it, which I think was the reason we didn't manage to crack it this time. Oh well. So if there is nothing else from you, this has been quite fun once again. I don't know if I'll keep this switch, simply because it seems to like kinda mess up with the state, but maybe I will, we'll see. I'll be making some small tweaks and deploying this so you can play it at techie.cat. If there are other games that you'd like to see done in JavaScript, let me know as well. If you want to see me double in Unreal Engine, please do. I'm looking for an excuse. We did manage to do this. We didn't do the shaking thing or the picking thing, and most of all the persistence thing, but it's been fun. But of course I have like Kanban boards of ideas. Once again, please do suggest whatever you want to see. Astro, I did check it out. So Adrian asks, because there is a lot of hype for Astro. Astro.build is the domain, and it's I guess a static framework. I don't really know how to explain it, but the big feature is that by default it will only ship HTML, and you can have some parts of your app be hydrated eventually. So if something needs slick JavaScript style interactivity, you can say, all right, my header I want it to be interactive, but this hero I don't want it to be interactive. This trusted section I don't want it to be interactive, but this one I want it to be interactive as well. But the idea is very good. I like it. I guess some of the things that they also say is that you can mix and match your front-end framework, so you can have your header be Svelte and your body be React, which is cool for sure. But similar to micro frontends, I think it's more of a cool tech than actual tech that solves your problems. Maybe in bigger companies, that could be the case, where you can have more independent, like product-related teams that they just care about the header or the checkout experience, and then they can use their framework of choice. But I do think in reality, you should conform in one framework. In my case, maybe it would be neat to say, oh, this blog post is using React because it's on React, and this blog post is using Svelte because it's on Svelte. But even then, I'd suggest going to a third party like Code Sandbox or Stackblitz and embedding the playground in the blog post, and have your blog post be in whichever language you want your whole site to be. Anyway, I did check it out a little bit. There was something that I didn't like a small thing, a small convention that they were doing that I didn't like, and at the end I was like, oh, I'm out. But of course, I will be checking it out more. It's all the rage. I'm not that convinced that we shouldn't be shipping too much JavaScript on the client. Of course, too much implicitly says that, oh, you've done too much. But how much is too much? Is too much 138 kilobytes? Probably not. But I don't know. I'm definitely very excited to see this evolve. What's the besides the small opinions that I didn't like personally? I guess the thing that people don't particularly like is how the navigation is old school. You're rendering the next screen navigation, so you may lose your state between screens. But I'm sure with the popularity that it's getting, there will be first-class solution of solving this thing. So yeah, we'll have to keep it in touch. And Jorge, about how to properly handle the store and keep in sync with server with the new SvelteKit. So that's something that I did need to kinda resolve as well, migrating to new SvelteKit as well. Somebody started this, that's nice. And in the end, it used to be that my user store and my theme store was a derived store from the session store SvelteKit had. So it derives the value that it needs to have from whatever is in the session store that SvelteKit has. However, session store has been deprecated, and now there is a page store for global state. Let's see. So now, for things that your pages and layouts load, SvelteKit will put it inside the page store, the $page store you can subscribe to inside data. However, that store is readable only. So you'll need to be messing with invalidation again if you want to properly update it and have it in sync with the server, which I thought was too much work for now. So what I've done is that the layout component does start with the theme values that get put in the locals according to the cookies that we have, as we saw, but then they do put these initial values into the theme store or the user store, so you can actually toggle the theme value, for example, or log out without needing to do a server request. Which is a bit naughty because it means I kind of have like two sources of truth, which is the thing you want to avoid and always keep it in sync. I guess the way to not need to do this is always use the page store, the $page.data, get the user and the theme from there. But then that would mean that the things that I do to set the theme or update the theme or log out the user, these should be invalidating the layout load, which, as we saw today, is tricky for me to do without invalidating everything. And I'd rather have the two sources of truth from for the theme toggle than being in the scenario where someone tries to toggle the theme and then every request, every load method in this page gets rerun. I think it's worth the risk. At least until things settle down, I get to read and experiment with SvelteKit more and then be more confident that, oh, this is the way you do it. You have this server method, you call it, and then it gets invalidated and everything is all right. For now, and because I did want to get this live before the previous live, my solution was this. Start from whatever SvelteKit has, but then create your own store. Which is unfortunate and not your solution, but hey. Yeah, I would only do this, like create your own store, on more trivial scenarios like this, like even logging out the user, this usually returns results in the new page reloading, I suppose. So for starring and stuff like that, it's I'm literally not using stores for this. So it's always a server that is telling me what the idea is and whether it's been started or not. So avoid stores. That feels like a horrible advice. If you're worried of two sources of truth, don't use stores. I guess that's why it's a good idea for a video. For example, if we extend this dashboard where you can actually create new ideas and edit them and all of that, there should be a layout that loads all of the ideas that already exist on the side, and then you select one and then you have the individual one and you're able to edit it on the fly. Because now you are able to edit it or create new ones, and then by virtue of us navigating, then everything gets updated as well. But for best user experience and to keep things client-side and SPA feel and all of that, then there should be a store. All of these, I should be putting them in a Svelte store, which should be updated in sync without too much invalidation every time I submit a form like this. But yeah, I don't have a good solution, which is why no video in the cards just yet. But yeah, that's my rough idea. That's one of the reasons I wanted to do a video on layouts, but of course layouts changed afterwards, because I do think that's something that would be useful to do well and know how you're supposed to do. But I just haven't figured it out myself yet, so no further advice. All right. Last chance, last sip to catch me with another question. We almost made it to 3 hours today. We've done, I think, a couple of streams that are above 3 hours. But the good thing is that they never feel like 3 hours or 4 hours. If we go long or if we go short, it's always a pleasure and fun to do. Even when sometimes you struggle, because that's real life. And that's what makes it fun, when you actually figure it out. It's like this moment. I'm addicted to those moments. This is why I keep picking up like various games and or sports or like balancing acts or something like that. Like I feel terrible when I start, but then you get this little click and you feel accomplished. Oh well, clearly enough ramblings from me. I'll say again, it's been a pleasure and hope you had fun as well. And I'll catch you all next week. Keep letting me know what you'd like to see. And goodbye. Enjoy the weekend.